Your breathing is slow and even. You listen to it, the soft whisper of air moving in and out of your nose, the way your chest rises and falls without any conscious effort. Your hands rest at your sides on top of the blanket, and you can feel the rough texture of the wool against your knuckles. After some time, you become aware of another sound, a sound from outside the felt walls. It is a soft exhale, a puff of breath that is not your own. It comes from somewhere in the darkness beyond, a living sound, deep and rhythmic. A horse, your horse, standing somewhere nearby in the night. Then you hear a slight shift, a hoof pressing down on packed earth and then lifting again, a muffled thud that is more felt than heard. You lie still and let the sound settle into you. There is no rush. The world outside is silent except for the occasional small movement of the herd, the horses shifting their weight or swishing their tails. The grass, you imagine, is wet with dew and bending under the sky. It is still a long while until dawn. You know this not because you can see the sky, but because your body knows it, the deep internal rhythm that has been tuned to the rising and setting of the sun for all your years. The darkness has a certain weight, a certain quality, that tells you it is the very last part of night, the hour before the first light. After a time, you move your right hand slowly from your side and place it on your chest, feeling the blankets weave under your palm. The motion is unhurried, each finger uncurling and settling in its own time. Then you take hold of the edge of the blanket and pull it down towards your waist, folding it back in a neat line. The cool air rushes in against your wool coat, but the coat holds your body heat, so the cold is not sharp, just a gentle reminder of the world outside. You are fully dressed in your day clothes, a thick felt coat that falls to your knees, a tunic of softer wool underneath, and wide trousers tucked into leather boots. You select in them as you always do, ready to rise and move. Now you sit up. The movement is slow, your abdominal muscles tightening just enough to lift your torso from the bedding. You place your palms flat on the ground on either side of your hips, feeling the cool, packed earth beneath the thin layer of felt. For a moment you just sit there, half upright, the darkness still complete around you. Your shoulders loosen. You roll your head slightly from side to side, feeling the small pop of vertebrae in your neck. Then you reach down to your feet, your body bending at the waist, and you find your leather boots placed neatly beside the bed. Your fingers touch the worn leather, which is cold and slightly stiff from the night air. You take the left boot first, turning it in your hands to find the opening and slide your foot inside. The leather is smooth on the inside, polished by countless days of wear. Your heel settles into the cup of the sole, and you tug the boot up over your calf. Then you do the same with the right boot, feeling the familiar fit around your foot, the gentle pressure along the arch. You do not lace the boots yet. Instead, you just sit there, feet on the ground, knees bent, arms resting loosely on your thighs. You listen again for the horse. There it is, the same soft exhale, a little closer perhaps, and then the sound of grass being torn and chewed, a steady grinding that speaks of patience and contentment. The horse is not restless. It is simply being a horse, standing in the dark, eating the grass it has pulled up by the roots. The sound is soothing, a continuous low rustle that joins the whisper of your own breathing. Eventually, you reach down to your boots and begin to lace them. The laces are strips of leather, darkened with age and handling. You take the first lace between your thumb and forefinger, feeling its waxy surface, and you pass it through the first set of holes at the ankle. You pull it snug, but not tight, then cross it over to the next set of holes, moving up your shin in a steady, methodical pattern. Your fingers know this work without any thought. The lacing is a small meditation, each crossing and pulling of the leather, a quiet act of preparation. You finish the left boot and tie a simple knot at the top, tucking the ends under the laces so they will not catch. Then you begin the right boot, starting again at the bottom, working your way up, until both boots are secure. You flex your ankles, feeling the leather creak slightly, the support firm around your lower legs. Now you stand. You push yourself up from the bedding with one hand on your knee, your body rising straight into the low, dark space of the shelter. The ceiling is just above your head, made of felt stretched over a wooden frame of bent poles. You can feel the presence of the ceiling, even if you cannot see it, a soft boundary that holds in the warmth. You reach out to the side, and your hand finds the wall, the felt rough and thick under your palm. You let your hand run along it as you walk toward the opening, your footsteps soft on the earth floor. The opening is a slit in the felt, held closed by a flap weighted with a strip of leather. You push it aside and the cold air of the outside world washes in, clean and sharp, carrying the scent of wet grass and open distance. You step out onto the step. The sky is immense above you, a great dome of deep blue-black studded with stars. There are so many stars that they seem almost crowded, a thick band of light stretching from one horizon to the other, with countless individual points glittering in the spaces between. There is no moon tonight, or it has already set, so the stars have the full sky to themselves. Their light is cold and clear, and it casts a faint silver glow on the landscape. By that glow, you can make out the shapes of the land, the long, low roll of hills, the darker patches of the horsehide gathered about 100 paces away, the endless sea of grass stretching in every direction. The grass is short, perhaps knee-high, and it moves gently in a breeze that is so light you barely feel it on your face. The grass whispers as it moves, a soft shushing that blends with the starry silence. You stand still just outside the shelter and let your eyes adjust. The cold air fills your lungs, and you can see your breath cloud faintly in front of your face, then disappear. You pull the collar of your coat a little higher around your neck, the wool scratchy against your chin. The ground beneath your boots is uneven, tussocks of grass interspersed with bare patches of soil that feel spongy from the night's moisture. You do not walk forward yet. You simply stand, your weight evenly distributed, your hands hanging at your sides. The peace of the night is so complete that it feels like a physical thing, a blanket spread over the world, muffling every sound and slowing every thought. Even the horses seem part of that stillness. Dark shapes that barely move, heads down, tails occasionally flicking. After a while, you take a step forward, then another. You're walking not directly toward the horses, but at a slight angle, following a faint path in the grass that leads to a spot where you can see the whole herd more clearly. Your footsteps are slow and deliberate, each one a separate decision to move. The grass brushes against your boots with a soft, dry sound. You can feel the dew beginning to soak into the leather, darkening it. You pause and look up at the sky again. One star, brighter than the others, catches your eye, and you watch it for a long moment, a steady point of light that does not blink or waver. It seems very old and very far away, a light that has been traveling since long before you were born. You have seen it many times before, on many other mornings just like this one, and it is always there in its same place, a quiet companion. You turn your gaze back toward the herd. The horses are scattered in a loose group, not standing in a neat line, but arranged in a kind of natural pattern, some close together, others a little apart. The picket line, a long rope stretched between two wooden stakes driven into the ground, runs near the front of the group, and you can see the dark silhouettes of the horses tied to it, their heads at slightly different heights. Your horse is among them. You cannot yet pick out which one is yours, but you know its shape, its way of standing, the particular angle of its head. You will recognize it when you get closer. You begin to walk toward them, not directly but in a gentle curve that will bring you to the edge of the herd without causing any alarm. Your pace is the same, slow, measured walk. You feel the cool air moving past your cheeks, the slight give of the soil under your boots. Your coat sways gently with your steps, the felt rubbing against your trousers. You are not thinking about anything in particular. Your mind is as still and open as the plain. A small patch of low shrubs appears to your left, their leaves silver in the starlight, and you smell their sharp, resinous scent as you pass, an aromatic note that cuts through the clean air. As you draw nearer to the herd, the horses become more distinct. You can see the curve of their backs, the way their necks slope down to the grass. The sound of their grazing grows louder, the steady tearing and chewing, the occasional heavier breath. You stop about 20 paces away and just watch. The nearest horse lifts its head and looks at you, its ears swiveling forward, soft, dark spots against the sky. You do not move. After a few seconds, the horse lowers its head again and resumes grazing, its initial alertness fading into calm. The others do not even look up. They have sensed you, but also recognized your stillness, your familiar presence. Now you begin to search for your own horse among the shapes. You look for the one with the slightly shorter back, the thicker neck, the particular way of holding its tail. And there it is, standing a little apart from the others, not at the very end of the picket line, but about 3 horses in. Its head is down, and it is pulling at the grass in slow, rhythmic motions, its jaw moving sideways as it grinds. You see the faint glint of starlight on its coat, which is a dark grey, almost the colour of the night itself. You feel a small warmth in your chest at the sight of it, a quiet recognition. You walk closer, each step soft and even, until you are standing just a few feet behind your horse. It knows you are there. You can tell by the way its ears flick backward, catching the sound of your breath and your footsteps, but it does not lift its head. It continues to graze, trusting you. You stop and look at the horse's back, the line of its spine, the way the muscles in its shoulders move under the skin as it shifts its weight. The night air is cold on the horse's coat, but you know that beneath that outer layer, the skin is warm, almost hot, radiating the heat of digestion and life. You stand there for a long time, not touching the horse yet, just being near it. The stars rotate overhead almost imperceptibly, the great wheel of the sky turning around its fixed point. A faint line of lighter darkness appears on the eastern horizon, so faint that you are not even sure you see it, a suggestion of grey on the deep black. But dawn is still far off, an hour or more. There is no need to hurry. The ritual of preparation will take its own time, flowing from one small task to the next without rush. For now it is enough to stand beside your horse in the dark, feeling the solidity of its presence, breathing the same cool air, listening to the same soft sounds of the steppe. Your hands hang at your sides, and you slowly flex your fingers, feeling the stiffness of sleep leave the joints. The world holds its breath around you, calm and vast, waiting for the first light. The path from the shelter to the picket line is not a marked trail, but a direction you know by heart, a gentle curve across the open ground that your feet have traced so many times they find it on their own. You step away from the felt walls and begin to walk, your first stride, slow and deliberate, the sole of your boot pressing into the earth as if testing its firmness. The ground near the shelter is packed hard by daily use, a bare patch of soil that has been compressed over many seasons into a smooth, almost polished surface. It feels solid underfoot, unyielding, with small cracks that have formed where the clay dried long ago. Your footsteps make very little sound here, just a faint scuff that is absorbed by the surrounding quiet. Beyond this packed area, the ground begins to change almost immediately. Within 10 paces, the hard earth gives way to a rougher texture, a mix of soil and small pebbles that rolls slightly under your weight. You feel the shift through the leather of your boots, a subtle increase in unevenness, the way each footfall requires a tiny adjustment of your ankle. The pebbles are smooth and cool, worn by wind and time, and they make a soft, dry clicking sound when your boot brushes against them. You slow your pace even more, not because the walking is difficult, but because slowing down feels natural in this darkness, as if the night itself resists any sudden movement. The sky above you remains clear and crowded with stars, their light steady and unhurried. You walk with your head tilted back just a little, your eyes tracing the patterns you have known since childhood. There is the great river of light that cuts across the heavens, a band of dense stars that seems to flow from one horizon to the other, and there, off to the north, the group of 7 bright points that form a shape like a small dipper. The stars are so many that you cannot possibly count them, but you know the major ones by their places and their brightness. They do not flicker or twitch. They simply shine with a cold white light that has traveled an unimaginable distance to reach your upturned face. The light is just strong enough to cast a faint, directionless glow on the grass, making the landscape appear as a vast expanse of soft grey rather than true darkness. You bring your gaze back down to the earth and notice the way the ground continues to change. The pebbles grow fewer, and the soil becomes looser, more granular, with a fine sandy quality that sinks a little under your heels. The packed clay is long behind you now, and you are walking on the true skin of the steppe, a layer of wind-blown soil that shifts subtly with each step. Your boot prints are shallow impressions that the grass will erase by midday, and you leave a trail of them behind you, each one a small disturbance in the otherwise undisturbed surface. The act of walking becomes a rhythm, a steady repetition of left foot, pause, left foot, right foot, pause. Your breathing falls into that same rhythm, slow and deep, your chest rising and falling in time with your stride. To your left, a long, low swell of land rises gently against the sky. It is not a hill, not even a ridge, just a subtle wave in the great flatness of the plain, its crest marked by a line of darker grass. To your right, the land falls away just as gently into a shallow depression where the dew has pooled invisibly on the leaves. You can smell the dampness, a faint, clean scent that rises from the ground and mingles with the dry smell of the grass. The breeze, which had been almost non-existent when you first stepped outside, now makes itself known as a soft push of air against your left cheek. It is not cold enough to make you shiver, but it carries a chill that reminds you of the vast open spaces from which it came, the endless leagues of grassland lying silent under the same stars. You pause mid-step and stand still, one foot slightly ahead of the other. The silence that rushes in when you stop moving is not a complete absence of sound, but a different kind of sound, a low, continuous hum that you realize is the combined noise of the night. It is the whisper of the grass moving in the breeze, the distant rustle of the herd, the faint high call of some nocturnal insect hidden among the roots. You can also hear your own heartbeat, a steady, soft pulse that you feel more than hear, a presence in your chest that beats on without your permission or attention. Then, from the direction of the picket line, comes the low, rolling sound of a horse exhaling heavily, a sound that seems to travel across the grass like a ripple on water. You listen for a moment longer, then lift your back foot and continue walking. The ground becomes springy under your boots, the soil giving way to a dense mat of grass roots that cushion each step. You are walking now on the living part of the steppe, where the grass grows thick and the earth beneath it is bound together by a network of fine, fibrous roots. The sensation underfoot is softer, more yielding, and your footsteps make a different sound here, a muffled thudding that is absorbed by the vegetation. Individual blades of grass brush against the leather of your boots with a soft, whisking noise, and you feel the occasional touch of a taller stalk against your calf. The grass is wet with dew, and the moisture begins to darken the lower part of your trousers, a coolness that gradually seeps through the wool. Your eyes have fully adjusted to the darkness now, and you can see the landscape in surprising detail. The picket line is visible as a dark horizontal stroke across the grey grass about 200 paces ahead, with the shapes of the horses clustered around it like boulders scattered on a plain. Beyond them, the land stretches away until it meets the sky in a line that is not quite sharp, a blurred meeting of earth and heaven that seems to breathe as the light slowly, almost imperceptibly, begins to change. The blackness of the eastern horizon has softened, the deep indigo giving way to a slightly paler shade, a charcoal grey that holds no warmth yet, but promises that the sun is on its way somewhere far beyond the curve of the world. You walk on, following the gentle curve that will bring you to the herd without approaching them directly head-on. This is a habit so old you do not think about it, the knowledge that a direct approach might startle the horses while a curving, indirect path signals calm and peaceful intention. Your steps trace a wide arc across the open ground, first angling slightly to the left, then gradually bending back to the right as you near the herd. The walk is long enough that you have time to notice many small things along the way. A patch of short, cropped grass where some animal has grazed earlier, a flat stone half buried in the soil, the way a particular cluster of stars has shifted its position relative to your path. The air continues to cool your face, and you occasionally lift a hand to rub your cheek, feeling the rough texture of your own skin, the slight scratch of stubble. As you come closer to the herd, the sounds of the horses grow more distinct. You hear the steady, rhythmic grinding of jaws as they chew, the sound of their teeth shearing through grass, their breath huffing out in regular intervals. Somewhere among them, a hoof stamps softly on the ground, a single dull thud. Another horse gives a low, throaty nicker, a sound that is not quite a whinny, just a quiet communication that drifts through the group and fades. The smell of the herd reaches you now, a warm, living smell of horse bodies and manure, and the sweet, dusty scent of trampled grass. It is not unpleasant. It is the familiar smell of life on the steppe, a smell you have known since you were a child. You pause again when you are about 50 paces from the nearest horse. From here you can see the picket line clearly, a rope made of twisted horsehair stretched taut between two sturdy wooden stakes that have been driven deep into the ground. The rope is about chest high on a horse and slightly slack, dipping a little in the middle where the weight of the tied horses pulls on it. Each horse is attached to the line by a shorter lead rope, knotted in a way that holds secure but can be released quickly if needed. The lead ropes hang down loosely, and the horses stand at varying angles to the line, some facing one way, some another, all with their heads lower to the grass. You can pick out your own horse now with certainty. Its silhouette is familiar in the way that the face of a family member is familiar, recognized not by any single feature, but by the whole shape and posture. The horse is standing with its left hind leg slightly cocked, the hoof resting on its toe, a position of deep relaxation. Its head is down, the long line of its neck sloping gently toward the ground, and its tail hangs still, the long hairs occasionally lifting in the small breeze before settling back against its hocks. The horse's ears are relaxed, flopping slightly to the sides rather than pointing forward or pinned back, and its eyes are half closed, the lids heavy with sleep. You do not call out or make any sound. Instead, you begin to walk again, slower than before, each step taken with extra care to avoid startling the herd. The ground here is heavily cropped and scattered with dried manure that has been flattened by hooves, and you step around the larger piles, your feet finding clear patches by instinct. The horses nearest to you notice your approach. One lifts its head and looks at you with a calm, liquid gaze, its eyes glinting faintly in the starlight, then returns to grazing. Another steps one pace sideways, a slow shuffling movement that is more about personal space than fear, and then resumes eating. The herd accepts your presence as part of the normal rhythm of the night. You reach the picket line and stop just beside the stake at the left end. The stake is a piece of hardwood, smoothed by handling and darkened by exposure, its top rounded and slightly splintered. The horsehair rope is fastened to it with a complex series of hitches that you could tie and untie in your sleep. You rest your hand on the stake for a moment, feeling the cool solid wood under your palm, the grain running vertically. Then you turn your attention fully to your horse, which is now just a few paces down the line to your right. It has not raised its head. It knows you are here. You can tell by the way one ear has swiveled back in your direction, but it remains relaxed, its jaw moving in the steady, circular rhythm of chewing, its breath puffing out in soft clouds that linger for a moment in the cold air before dissolving. You stand there for a long, quiet time, not moving any closer, just observing. There is no need to rush this moment. The horse's tail swishes once, a slow, lazy sweep that brushes away a non-existent fly, then hangs still again. The muscles along its flank twitch slightly, a reflexive shudder that ripples under the skin and subsides. You watch the way the starlight falls on its coat, highlighting the curve of its shoulder, the smooth slope of its rump, the dark points of its ears against the night. The horse exhales a long, deep breath through its nostrils, a sound of utter contentment, and you feel your own shoulders drop, your own jaw loosen, a quiet settling of your whole body into the stillness. The world is silent and vast, and you are exactly where you need to be, at the edge of the herd under the fading stars. You stand beside the picket line with your weight settled equally on both feet, the stillness of the night wrapped around you like an extra layer of wool. The horse remains in its relaxed posture a few steps away, head low, one hind hoof tipped up on its toe. Its breathing is a steady, deep rhythm that you can see in the slow rise and fall of its barrel, the ribs expanding and contracting under the dark coat. The stars continue their silent wheel overhead, and the eastern horizon still holds only the faintest promise of grey. You decide it is time to close the small distance that remains. You take a single step forward, then another, each movement as slow as the stirring of grass in a light breeze. Your boots make a soft, brushing sound against the cropped stems and the dry soil. You do not try to hide your approach, there is no need, but you move with the calm deliberation that a horse understands as peaceful. As you come nearer, the horse's nearer ear, the one on your side, swivels backward to catch the sound of your footsteps, then rotates forward again, then back, as if tracking something mildly interesting but not alarming. The other ear, the one facing away, flicks once in a small, lazy gesture. When you are close enough to reach out and touch the animal, you stop. You stand just behind and to the side of its left shoulder, a position that keeps you visible and out of the blind spot directly behind. The horse knows you are there. You can tell by the way it has stopped chewing for a moment, its jaws paused mid-motion, a wad of grass held in its mouth. Then it resumes chewing, the grinding sound slow and wet. You let out a low, soft sound from the back of your throat. Not quite a word, just a short click of the tongue against the roof of your mouth. It is a sound you have made thousands of times, a greeting and a reassurance all in one. The horse's nearest ear flicks towards you sharply, and it shifts its weight from the cocked hind leg to both hind legs, a small adjustment that makes the tack on the picket line jingle faintly, a soft, metallic whisper that fades immediately. You lift your right hand, the arm moving slowly through the cool air, your palm open and facing the horse. Your fingers are slightly curved, relaxed, the hand held at the level of your waist. You reach forward across the small gap and place your palm flat against the horse's shoulder. The first sensation is warmth. The coat is cool on the very surface where the night air has chilled the outer hairs, but underneath that thin layer of coolness there is a steady, deep heat that seems to radiate from the horse's core. The warmth seeps into your palm and spreads up through your wrist, a gentle contrast to the cold that has been nibbling at your fingertips. You keep your hand still, just pressing lightly, letting the horse feel your presence as a steady, immovable point of contact. The texture under your hand is complex. The outer hairs are coarse, each one a stiff, tubular strand that you can feel individually as your hand settles into the coat. Beneath these guard hairs, closer to the skin, there is a softer, denser undercoat, a woolly layer that traps heat and gives the coat a plush, springy feel. As you press slightly harder, you feel the solid muscle beneath, the great mass of the shoulder that moves the foreleg, and you can sense the shape of the bone underneath that, a hard, curved architecture that gives the shoulder its form. The horse does not flinch or pull away. It stands perfectly still, its breathing unchanged, its head still lowered to the grass. Your hand begins to warm the spot where it rests, and after a few moments, you can feel the horse's own warmth returning the favor, the two heats meeting through the medium of hair and skin. You begin to move your hand, not lifting it but sliding it slowly backward along the slope of the shoulder. The grain of the hair runs from front to back here, and your hand travels with the grain, smoothing the hairs down as it goes. The coat feels different as your hand moves over the point of the shoulder, where the bone is close to the surface, the hair is shorter, and the skin seems thinner, the muscle underneath more defined. Further back, over the middle of the rib cage, the hair grows a little longer, and the skin slides more freely over the ribs, a loose, supple layer that you can shift with a gentle push. You feel the individual ribs as broad, curved ridges under your palm, each one separated by a slight hollow where the intercostal muscles lie. The horse's breathing causes these ribs to rise and fall in a slow, steady cycle, and your hand rises and falls with them, moving as if you are floating on a calm sea. You slide your hand further back, past the last rib, and onto the flank where the hair is finer and the skin is thinner and more sensitive. Here, the horse's coat is almost velvety, the hairs lying flat and smooth like a well-worn fabric. The flank twitches slightly under your touch, a reflexive quiver that ripples the skin and then subsides. You do not linger there, knowing it is a ticklish spot for many horses, and instead you trace your hand back toward the shoulder along a slightly higher path, just below the line of the back. The muscles here are dense and powerful. the long back muscle that runs from the withers to the croup, and you can feel the slight dip of the spine between the two ridges of muscle. You move your hand up now, slowly, climbing the slope of the shoulder to the base of the neck. The neck is a column of strength, thick at its base where it joins the body, and you slide your palm along its lower curve, feeling the windpipe beneath the skin and the great jugular groove where the vein runs. The coat on the neck is similar to that on the shoulder, coarse on the outside, soft beneath. You can feel the horse's pulse here, a gentle, steady beat that you locate by pressing your fingertips into the groove, the blood moving in a regular rhythm, about 40 beats for every minute. The beat is a quiet, reassuring metronome, a sign of life and calm in the dark. You hold your fingers there for a while, counting no numbers, just sensing the ongoing, automatic cadence of the horse's heart. Then you slide your hand upward along the side of the neck toward the mane. The mane is a thick ridge of long, coarse hair that stands up from the crest of the neck before falling over to one side, and your fingers reach the edge of it and pause. The mane hair is different from the coat hair, much longer and stiffer, each strand as thick as a piece of thread. You work your fingers under the mane, lifting it gently, the hair rustling with a soft, dry sound. Beneath the mane, the skin is warm and often a little damp, and you feel the solid muscle of the neck's crest, the top line that you look at every day. The horse leans slightly into your touch, a subtle shift of weight toward you, and you feel the increased pressure of its neck against your hand. It is a small gesture, but it speaks of trust and a kind of quiet affection. You stand there with your hand buried under the mane, the horse's weight leaning gently against you, and you feel the whole living mass of the animal connected to you through that single point of contact. After some time, you slowly withdraw your hand from under the mane, letting the long hairs fall back into place. The mane retains the shape of your hand for a moment, then gradually settles. You reach up again, this time placing your palm on the horse's forehead, just below the forelock. The forelock is a tuft of long hair that falls between the eyes, and it brushes against the back of your hand as you make contact. The forehead is broad and flat, the bone solid beneath a thin layer of skin and a short, fine coat. The horse blinks slowly, the movement visible as a dark sweep of the eyelashes in the starlight, and lowers its head a fraction more, accepting the touch. You let your hand slide down the front of the face, following the narrow, bony bridge of the nose, toward the muzzle. But you stop before reaching the soft, velvety part. Instead, you just rest your hand on the hard nasal bone, feeling the horse's warm breath streaming out of its nostrils in two steady currents that flow past your wrist. Now the scent of the horse rises up to meet you, and you close your eyes for a moment to take it in. The smell is complex, a layered thing that has no single source. There is the dry, earthy smell of dust that has settled into the coat over days of grazing and lying down, a fine powder that clings to each hair. There is the richer, muskier smell of dried sweat, the residue of past exertions long since evaporated, leaving behind a salty, slightly sour note that is not unpleasant but familiar. There is the green, sweet smell of grass, crushed and chewed, that wafts from the horse's mouth as it continues its slow, rhythmic grinding. And there is the smell of leather, from the halter that the horse wears, its head collar and cheek pieces darkened with years of handling, the scent of tanned hide and horsehair and old oil blending into the animal's own odor. These smells mingle into one single unmistakable smell, the smell of horse, a smell that means home and companionship and the open steppe. You open your eyes and breathe in again, the cold air mixing with the warm exhalations of the horse so that you seem to share the same pocket of air. Your own breath comes out in a faint visible cloud that drifts upward and dissipates. The horse's breath is thicker and warmer, a plume of vapor that rolls out of its nostrils in two steady streams and then curls away on the breeze. You watch the two breaths, yours and the horse's, mingling in the space between you, a small temporary weather system that exists for a few seconds and then vanishes. You breathe in again, and this time you hold the air in your lungs for a long count, feeling the coldness of it, before letting it out in a slow, controlled sigh. The horse matches your sigh with a deep, rolling exhale of its own, the sound coming from deep within its chest, and you feel the vibration of it through your hand that still rests on its nose. The world around you has not changed. The stars are still fixed in their places, though if you look closely, you can see that they have rotated ever so slightly, the whole dome of heaven pivoting around a point behind your left shoulder. The grass continues to whisper, the other horses continue to graze, and the wind continues its faint, intermittent push. But within this changelessness, there is a sense of deepening connection, a quiet understanding that passes between you and your horse in the stillness. You stand there with your hand on its warm, living body, and you feel the animal's patience, its acceptance of the moment, its complete presence in the here and now. The horse does not worry about the day ahead, does not remember yesterday, does not plan for tomorrow. It simply is, and being near it, you become a little more like that yourself. Your hand, which had been still on the nasal bone, now moves again, this time drifting back along the side of the face to the cheek, where the large, flat muscle of the jaw works steadily as the horse chews. You can feel the grinding motion under the skin, the powerful sideways sweep of the molars as they crush the fibrous grass. The motion is hypnotic, a continuous, circular rhythm that has been going on for hours and will go on for hours more, a slow, living engine of digestion. You let your hand rest there for a time, feeling the movement, and then you slide it back down the neck, retracing the path you made earlier, your palm gliding over the coarse coat and the thick muscle, down to the point of the shoulder where you first made contact. You have made a full circuit of the horse's near side, and now you stand quietly, both hands hanging at your sides again. The horse has not moved from its spot, but its posture has changed slightly. Its head is a little higher than it was, its ears a little more alert, not out of nervousness, but out of a quiet attention directed toward you. It is waiting, not impatiently, just waiting, its great dark eye turned toward you, the eye that reflects the entire starry sky in miniature, a tiny curved mirror of the cosmos. You look into that eye for a long moment, seeing your own dark shape reflected there, and then you reach up again and place your hand flat on the warm, solid shoulder, right where you began. The horse leans into your touch, a little more firmly this time, and you stand together under the stars, sharing warmth and breath and stillness, asking nothing, needing nothing, just being there, on the edge of the waking world. The time has come to move from the picket line to the place where the grooming tools are kept, a short walk across the grass that you have made so many times your body knows every step. You take your hand from the horse's shoulder, letting your palm lift slowly away, the warmth of the coat lingering on your skin for a few seconds before the night air reclaims it. The horse shifts its weight but does not lift its head, still chewing the last mouthful of grass it pulled from the ground. Its jaw works in that same steady, circular motion, and its ears remain relaxed, one tipped toward you, the other flopped outward toward the dark plain. You turn your attention to the lead rope, the short length of twisted horsehair that connects the horse's halter to the main picket line. The knot that secures it is a simple one, a series of loops and tucks that you have tied and untied in every kind of weather, with fingers numb from cold or slick with rain, and now the motions are as natural as breathing. You step closer to the wooden stake at the end of the picket line, your boots making no more than a whisper on the cropped grass, and you reach down with your right hand to where the rope meets the main line. The horsehair rope is stiff from the cold and slightly rough against your fingers, its surface made of countless short, coarse fibers twisted together into a single strand that is strong and thin. You can feel the individual twists under your fingertips, the way the rope has been made by rolling and twisting the hair between someone's palms long ago, the fibers locking together to form a cord that will not slip or stretch. You find the tail of the knot, the short end that tucks back under the standing part, and you work your thumbnail under it, prying it loose with a gentle, patient motion. The knot resists slightly, the fibers having tightened overnight from the pull of the horse as it grazed, but with a steady pressure you ease the loop open. The rope makes a faint, dry, rustling sound as it moves against itself, a sound like straw being rubbed between two hands. You pull the tail free and then grasp the loop that wraps around the picket line, a simple half-hitch that you undo by pushing the rope back through itself, and the knot loosens and falls apart. You are left holding the end of the lead rope in your hand, the horsehair now warm from your grip, and the horse is no longer attached to the picket line. You do not pull on the rope immediately. Instead, you let it hang slack for a moment, the end dangling just above the ground, and you look at the horse to see if the untying has changed its mood. The horse has stopped chewing, its head raised just a little higher than before, and its ears have both swiveled toward you. It knows it is free from the line, and it stands waiting for the next thing, the next small event in the morning's quiet routine. You gather the lead rope into your hand slowly, coiling the slack in loose loops around your palm, the coils lying flat and neat against your skin. The rope is about the length of your arm from end to end, and when you have coiled all the slack, you hold the coil in your left hand, keeping a gentle tension on the rope with your right hand near the horse's head. Now you turn away from the picket line, facing the open plain to the west, and you take a small step forward. You do not pull the horse, you simply start walking, and the pressure of the rope on the halter is so light that it is more a suggestion than a command. The horse responds by lifting its head fully, shaking its neck once so that the mane flops over to the other side, and then stepping forward with a slow, deliberate stride. Its front hoof lifts from the grass, the dark horn of the hoof wall catching a faint glimmer of starlight, and then it sets down again a short distance ahead, the hoof sinking slightly into the soft ground. The horse follows you willingly, its head at the level of your shoulder, its breathing still deep and regular, and the two of you begin the walk to the grooming spot. The path you take is a faint trail in the grass, barely visible even in daylight, just a slightly paler line where the stems have been trodden down by repeated passage. You walk with a slow, even gait, your left hand holding the coiled lead rope close to your waist, your right hand swinging gently at your side. The horse walks beside you, not behind, keeping its head at your shoulder and matching your pace exactly. You can hear the soft thud of its hooves on the ground, a four-beat rhythm that blends with the sound of your own footsteps, the two of you making a quiet, shuffling music as you move across the steppe. The picket line and the other horses recede behind you, their dark shapes gradually merging with the general darkness until they are just part of the landscape, indistinguishable from the low shrubs and the distant slope of the land. The ground underfoot changes again as you walk, the closely cropped grass near the picket line giving way to taller, coarser grass that brushes against your calves and against the horse's legs. The dew has grown heavier in the last while, and the grass is wet enough that your boots begin to darken with moisture from the ankles upward, the leather turning from a dull brown to a deep, almost black shade. The horse's hooves, when they lift from the ground, make a soft, sucking sound as they break free of the damp soil, and each footprint they leave behind is a small, dark circle that slowly fills with a tiny pool of water. You feel the dampness in the air as well, a cool, clean humidity that clings to your cheeks and makes the faint breeze seem colder than it really is. Your breath continues to cloud in front of you, and now the horse's breath joins yours, two plumes of vapor that rise and twist together and are gone. The grooming spot is a place you chose long ago, a flat, open area about 300 paces from the picket line, where the ground is bare and packed hard from use. In the center of this clearing stands a sturdy wooden post, driven deep into the earth, its top reaching just above your waist. The post is made of the same dark, weathered hardwood as the picket stakes, and it leans slightly to one side, a lean that has been there for as long as you can remember. Hanging from a hook driven into the post is a large leather bag, its surface cracked and oiled and shaped by the tools it holds. The bag has a wide flap that folds over the top and is secured by a wooden toggle, and as you approach you can see the outline of the brushes inside pushing against the leather, giving the bag a lumpy, irregular shape. Beside the post, on the ground, lies a folded piece of felt, a square of thick, grey wool that serves as a clean surface on which to lay the tools when they are in use. You walk up to the post and stop, your horse stopping beside you without any signal, simply because you have stopped. The horse lowers its head and sniffs at the ground near the post, its nostrils flaring as it takes in the scents of old leather, dried sweat, and the faint, bitter smell of the hoof oil that you rub into its hooves on occasion. You reach out with your free hand and touch the post, your palm resting on the smooth wood that has been polished by years of handling. The wood is cold and solid, and you feel the grain running vertically under your fingers, the tiny ridges and furrows that the weather has carved into the surface. You leave your hand there for a moment, just feeling the steadiness of the post, before you turn your attention to the leather bag. First, you need to secure the horse so that it will stand quietly while you work. There is a smaller iron ring driven into the post about halfway up, and you take the end of the lead rope and pass it through the ring, pulling it through until the horse's head is about an arm's length from the post. You tie another simple knot, a quick release knot that you can undo with a single pull of the tail if you ever need to free the horse quickly that you have never needed to. The knot is made by forming a loop, passing the end through the ring, folding it back and tucking a bight through the loop. You pull it snug but not tight, and then you let the rope hang slack. The horse immediately relaxes, its head drooping slightly, its hind leg cocking up into its resting position once more, and you know it will stand there patiently for as long as you need. Now you turn to the leather bag. You lift the flap, the leather stiff and cold, the wooden toggle clicking against the edge of the bag as you pull it free. The opening of the bag is dark, and you reach inside with your right hand, your fingers finding the shapes of the tools by touch. The first thing you pull out is the curry comb, a tool made from a hollowed gourd that has been cut in half and fitted with a leather strap across its back. The gourd is hard and smooth, its inner surface lined with short, rounded teeth that you carved yourself long ago, each tooth carefully shaped and then sanded smooth so that it will not scratch the horse's skin. You set the curry comb on the felt square beside the post, placing it face up so that the teeth are visible, the pale woody color of the gourd contrasting with the dark gray of the felt. You reach into the bag again and take out the stiff brush, a rectangular block of wood with a handle shaped to fit your palm and bristles, made from the stiff hairs of a wild boar. The bristles are yellowish and slightly curved, set into the wood in tight rows, and they feel springy and resilient when you press your thumb against them. This brush you place next to the curry comb, aligning it carefully so that the handle points toward you. Then you reach in a third time and bring out the soft brush, a similar tool but with much finer, softer bristles, these ones taken from the tail of a horse and bound into the wood with a strip of sinew. The soft brush is lighter in color, almost cream, and its bristles are so fine that they feel like a whisper against your skin. You place it beside the stiff brush, completing the row. Finally, you reach deep into the bottom of the bag and find the hoof pick, a curved piece of iron with a flattened, pointed end and a handle wrapped in strips of worn leather. The iron is cold, much colder than the wooden tools, and it has a faint metallic smell that reminds you of rain. You lay the hoof pick on the felt as well, its curved shape looking like a small dark sickle against the wool. Then you close the flap of the bag, pulling the toggle back through its loop, and you stand back to survey your work. The tools lie in a neat row on the felt, ready for the grooming: the curry comb, the stiff brush, the soft brush, and the hoof pick, each in its place. The sky has begun to change more noticeably now, though the sun is still far below the horizon. The charcoal grey that had appeared on the eastern edge has spread upward, diluting the blackness into a deep, dark blue, and the stars in that part of the sky are beginning to fade, their light overwhelmed by the slow, silent approach of day. The brightest stars directly overhead still shine clearly, but they too will soon vanish. The air feels slightly different now, a little less cold, a little more alive, as if the world is taking a deeper breath in preparation for the dawn. You feel this change on your skin, a subtle warming that is not yet warmth, just the absence of the deepest chill, and you know that by the time you finish grooming the horse, the sun will be very near to rising. You turn back to the horse, which has been standing quietly by the post, its eyes now fully open, its ears tracking your movements with a calm, lazy attention. The horse knows what comes next. It has been groomed in this spot countless times, and it understands the routine as well as you do. The sequence of brushes, the lifting of the hooves, the slow, methodical care. You step up to its left side, the same side where you stood at the picket line, and you place your hand once more on its worn shoulder, feeling the solidity of the animal beneath your palm. The horse leans slightly into your touch, and you let your hand rest there for a long moment, the two of you standing together in the quiet clearing, the tools laid out and waiting, the sky slowly brightening, the whole world still and calm around you. Then you reach down and pick up the currycomb, its smooth gold surface cool against your fingers, and you prepare to begin the long, slow work of grooming. The currycomb rests in your right hand, its curved surface fitting against your palm as naturally as a stone worn smooth by a river. The gourd from which it was made has aged to a pale golden-brown color, and the short rounded teeth that line its inner face are polished from countless passes over the horse's coat. The leather strap across its back is darkened with oil and sweat, and it feels cool and slightly tacky against your skin. You close your fingers around the strap, settling the comb securely in your grip, and then you step closer to the horse's left side, positioning yourself just behind the shoulder where you stood earlier. The horse does not move. Its head remains low, its eyes half closed, and its tail hangs still, the long hairs brushing against its hocks. The air around you is quiet, and the faint grey light on the eastern horizon has climbed a little higher, though the sun is still a long way off. You lift the currycomb and place it against the horse's neck, just below the mane where the muscle is thick and the coat is dense. The teeth make contact with the hair with a soft, scratchy sound, and you begin to move the comb in a small, circular motion. The movement starts at the wrist, a gentle rotation that causes the teeth to lift and loosen the dust and dried sweat trapped in the coat. The sound is rhythmic, a low, continuous scratching that blends with the whisper of the grass and the distant breathing of the herd. As you work the comb in its tight circles, you feel the texture of the horse's coat through the tool, the resistance of the coarse outer hairs and the softer undercoat beneath. The horse's skin twitches slightly under the pressure, a reflexive ripple that runs along the neck and then subsides, and the horse lets out a long, slow breath through its nostrils, a sound of quiet contentment. The dust begins to rise almost immediately, fine particles of earth and dried sweat that have been trapped in the coat for days. They lift from the hair in tiny, pale clouds that hover in the air for a moment before drifting away on the faint breeze. The dust catches the starlight and the early grey of dawn, sparkling faintly as it swirls, and you can smell it, a dry, earthy scent that is not unpleasant, just old and settled. You continue to work the comb in circles, overlapping each circle with the next so that no patch of skin is missed. You move the comb slowly down the neck, following the slope of the muscle toward the shoulder. The horse's neck is broad and powerful, and you can feel the individual bundles of muscle under the skin as you pass the comb over them. The coat here is thick, the guard hairs standing up slightly where you have disturbed them, and the undercoat is soft and warm. You pause and remove the comb from the horse, holding it away from your body with the teeth facing downward. With your left hand, you tap the back of the comb several times, sharp, light taps that knock the accumulated dust and hair loose. The debris falls to the ground in a small grey pile on the packed earth, and the comb is clean again. You then place the comb back on the horse, this time on the flat of the shoulder, and you resume the circular motion. The shoulder is a large curved plane of muscle and bone, and the comb moves over it in smooth, even circles, the teeth working their way through the coat to the skin. You can feel the ridge of the shoulder blade under your hand, a hard, sloping line that you follow with the comb, working upward toward the withers and then downward toward the point of the shoulder. The horse shifts its weight slightly, a small adjustment that makes the leather of the halter creak, but it does not move away. You continue this pattern for a long time, working the currycomb over every part of the horse's left side. You move from the shoulder down the upper foreleg, where the hair is shorter and the skin lies close to the bone. The foreleg is a column of tendons and ligaments, and you use smaller, gentler circles here, careful not to press too hard against the sensitive structures. The horse does not flinch, and you feel the hard, round shape of the cannon bone under your fingers, the slight bulge of the fetlock joint, the coarse hair of the pastern. You then move back up the leg and onto the barrel, the great curved wall of the rib cage. The ribs rise and fall with each breath, and you time the circles of your comb to the rhythm of the breathing, so that the motion becomes part of the horse's own life. The coat over the ribs is slightly looser than on the shoulder, the skin sliding easily over the underlying muscle, and the comb catches on the individual ribs as it passes over them, a series of small, regular bumps. The horse's flank comes next, a sensitive area that you approach with care. You lighten the pressure of the comb and make your circles broader and slower, barely touching the skin. The flank twitches in response, the skin rippling like the surface of water disturbed by a small stone, and the horse lifts its head for a moment and looks back at you with its dark, calm eye. You pause and let the comb rest lightly against the flank, not moving, just holding the pressure steady until the horse relaxes again, its head lowering, its breathing deepening. Then you resume, moving the comb in its slow circles until the entire flank has been covered, and you continue on to the hindquarters. The hindquarters are the engine of the horse, a massive, rounded mass of muscle that powers every stride, and the comb works its way over the great curve of the croup with the same patient circular motion. The muscle here is dense and firm, and you can feel the shape of it under the comb, the way it flows from the hip down to the thigh. The coat on the hindquarters is slightly coarser than elsewhere, and it takes more circles to loosen all the dust, but you are in no hurry. You work the comb in overlapping rings, moving from the croup down the back of the thigh, across the wide, flat expanse of the gaskin, and then down to the hock. The hock is a bony, angular joint, and you use the edge of the comb here, working carefully around the point of the hock and down the cannon bone of the hind leg, the same small, gentle circles you used on the foreleg. When the entire left side is finished, you step back and tap the comb clean once more, the dust falling to the ground in a thin cascade. The horse's left side looks different now, the coat slightly roughened and standing up in places where the comb has lifted the hair, but the dust and loose dirt are gone, and the coat has a dull, healthy look. The horse stands perfectly still, its weight resting on 3 legs. The left hind hoof cocked slightly. You walk around to the right side, passing in front of the horse, your hand briefly touching its muzzle as you go, a small, reassuring contact. The horse follows you with its near eye, but does not turn its head. You position yourself on the right side, just behind the shoulder, and you begin the same process all over again. The right side is a mirror of the left, but the muscles are arranged slightly differently because of the way horses are built, and you adjust your movements accordingly. You start at the neck, just below the mane on this side, and you make the same small circular motions, the comb's teeth scratching softly through the coat. The dust rises again, the same fine pale particles, and you work your way down the neck to the shoulder, the same broad, curved surface of muscle and bone. The right shoulder has the same solidity under your hand, the same warmth radiating through the coat. The horse's breathing continues, slow and steady, and you fall into the rhythm of the work, a rhythm that is almost like a meditation, each circle flowing into the next without thought or effort. You tap the comb clean at intervals, the sharp sound of the tapping breaking the quiet for a moment before the stillness returns. You move down the right foreleg, tracing the same path over the knee and the cannon bone, and then up onto the barrel. The ribs on this side rise and fall with the same deep oceanic rhythm, and you circle the comb over them one by one. The flank on the right side twitches just as the left did, and you pause again, letting the horse adjust to the touch before continuing. Then the hindquarters, the great swell of muscle that you work in broad, overlapping circles, the comb lifting the last of the dust from the coat. The horse sighs once, a deep, contented sound that seems to come from somewhere far inside its massive chest, and you feel the vibration of it through the comb and into your hand. You finish the right hind leg, the hock, and the cannon bone, and then you step back and tap the comb clean for the final time. The curry comb has done its work. The horse's entire body has been loosened of the night's accumulation of dust and dried sweat, and the coat, though still roughened, feels clean and soft to the touch. You can see the difference in the way the light, which has grown perceptibly stronger in the east, falls on the horse's coat, a dull, even sheen that was not there before. You set the curry comb down on the felt square beside the post, placing it carefully next to the other tools, the gored surface still warm from your hand. The horse turns its head slightly and looks at you, its dark eye calm and patient, and then it turns back to face forward, its ears relaxed, its tail swishing once in a slow, lazy arc. You wipe your hands on the front of your coat, feeling the fine dust that has settled on your palms, and you take a long, slow breath of the cool morning air. The next tool, the stiff brush, lies waiting on the felt, but for now you simply stand beside the horse, letting the silence and the stillness return, the dust you raised still hanging faintly in the air around you, sparkling in the growing light. The curry comb rests on the felt square, its work finished, and you reach down to pick up the stiff brush. The wooden handle fits into your palm with a familiar weight, slightly heavier than the gourd comb, and the bristles, a dense field of yellowish-brown hairs, feel springy when you press your thumb against them. Each bristle is a single shaft of wild boar hair, thicker at the base and tapering to a fine point, and they are set into the wood in rows so tight that no gap is visible. The brush has a smell, a faint animal scent that lingers from the boar, mixed with the dry dust of many grooming sessions. You turn it over in your hand, feeling the smooth wood on the back, and then you step up to the horse's left side, positioning yourself near the shoulder once more. The horse stands quietly, its coat still roughened from the currycomb, the hairs standing up in small tufts where the circular motion lifted them. The sky behind you has brightened enough that the stars overhead are now only the very brightest, and the eastern horizon has taken on a pale, silvery grey that spills upward into the deep blue. You place the stiff brush against the horse's neck, just below the crest where the mane falls away, and you begin a long, sweeping stroke that follows the direction of the hair. The bristles sink into the coat and catch the loosened dust and dead hair, flicking it away in a fine spray that catches the early light. The sound is different from the currycomb, a soft, whisking noise like a broom on a stone floor, steady and repetitive. You draw the brush down the neck, over the slope of the shoulder, and along the upper foreleg, the stroke ending just above the knee. The bristles leave behind a faint trail in the coat, the hairs now lying flat and smooth, a darker stripe against the roughened surrounding fur. You lift the brush and return to the neck, overlapping the first stroke by half the width of the brush, and you repeat the motion, another long, even sweep that peels away more dust and loose particles. The rhythm settles into place. Stroke, lift, return, stroke, lift, return, each movement flowing into the next without haste. The dust that rises is finer now than what the currycomb produced, a pale grey powder that hangs in the air like mist and then settles slowly onto the grass and onto your boots. You can feel the tiny particles on your face, a dry, gritty sensation that you ignore, and you breathe through your nose, the air cool and clean. The horse stands perfectly still, its ears relaxed and drooping, its breathing deep and regular. Occasionally a muscle along its back twitches, a small involuntary response to the brush passing over a sensitive spot, and the horse will shift its weight from one hind foot to the other, a slow rocking motion that creaks the leather of the halter. You work your way down the neck, stroke by stroke, until the entire left side of the neck lies smooth and flat, the dust removed, the coat beginning to show a dull gleam. From the neck, you move to the shoulder, the brush describing long, even strokes that trace the contours of the muscle. You start at the top of the shoulder, near the withers, and brush downward, following the angle of the shoulder blade toward the point of the shoulder, then along the upper arm to the elbow. Each stroke is a single, fluid motion, your wrist staying straight, your elbow doing the work. The brush collects dust and loose hair in its bristles, and after every few strokes, you pause and tap the brush against the heel of your left hand, knocking the debris free onto the ground. The tapping sound is sharp and brief, a quick, percussive note that interrupts the steady whisking, and then you resume, the brush returning to the coat with a soft, settling sound. The horse's shoulder takes on a clean, even appearance, the individual hairs lying in neat rows, the skin beneath visible as a dark shadow through the finer parts of the coat. You continue down the left foreleg, where the hair is short and close to the skin, and you use shorter, lighter strokes here, the brush moving from the knee down to the fetlock in a series of quick, gentle sweeps. The cannon bone is a hard, straight line under your hand, and you can feel the tendons at the back of the leg, tight and strong, as the brush passes over them. The fetlock joint, a rounded knob of bone, receives a few careful strokes, the bristles working around the small depression where the joint flexes, and then you brush down the pastern to the coronet, the narrow band where the hoof meets the skin. The hoof itself is dark and cool, and you brush the outer wall with a few quick passes, removing the dry soil that clings to it from the night's grazing. The horse does not lift its hoof yet, that will come later, but for now, the brushing of the leg is enough, and you move back up to the body. The barrel of the horse is next, the great, rounded expanse of the ribcage that rises and falls with each breath. You stand close to the horse, your hip almost touching its side, and you reach across with the brush, making long, horizontal strokes that follow the curve of the ribs. The brush travels from the spine down to the belly, and you overlap each stroke, working your way from the shoulder back toward the flank. The dust continues to rise, a fine grey haze that surrounds you both, and you pause now and then to tap the brush clean, the debris falling in small soft piles at your feet. The horse's breathing creates a gentle rhythmic movement under the brush, and you time your strokes to it, brushing on the exhale when the rib cage falls and lifting on the inhale when it rises, a small synchronization that makes the work feel seamless. The flank, when you reach it, is brushed with extra care, the strokes lighter and slower, and the horse's skin flinches slightly before relaxing again, the tail swishing once in a lazy arc. Now the hindquarters, the massive rounded muscles that slope from the croup down to the thigh. You stand behind the horse's left hind leg and brush in long, sweeping strokes that follow the grain of the hair from the hip downward. The bristles sink into the dense coat and emerge laden with dust, which you tap away regularly. The curve of the croup is a smooth, broad plane, and the brush travels over it with a steady, even pressure, the sound a continuous, soft whisking that seems to blend with the whisper of the wind. You brush down the back of the thigh, the muscle firm and warm under your hand, and then along the gaskin to the hock, that sharp, angular joint that you work around carefully with the tip of the brush. The lower hind leg receives the same short, gentle strokes as the foreleg, the brush cleaning the cannon bone and the fetlock, the hoof wall brushed free of its coating of dry soil. When the entire left hind leg is finished, you step back and survey the left side of the horse. The coat lies flat and clean, the dust gone, the color of the horse now a deep, even gray that glows faintly in the growing light. You walk around to the right side, the stiff brush still in your hand, and you begin the same process again, starting at the neck and working your way back. The right side of the horse is a near mirror of the left, but the light falls on it differently now, the eastern sky having brightened to a pale golden gray that casts long, faint shadows across the grass. The brush strokes are the same long, even sweeps, the same overlapping pattern, the same rhythm of whisk, tap, whisk, tap. You work down the neck, over the shoulder, along the foreleg, across the barrel, over the flank, and onto the hindquarters, each part of the horse receiving the same unhurried attention. The horse stands just as quietly on this side, its right hind hoof cocked in relaxation, its head low, its eyes half closed. The dust on this side is slightly less than on the left, because the horse tends to stand with its right side into the prevailing breeze, which has blown some of the loose particles away during the night, but still the brush lifts a fine haze that swirls in the air and then settles. When you finish the right hind leg, you straighten up and flex your hand, the muscles of your fingers slightly tired from gripping the brush. You hold the stiff brush out and examine its bristles, which are now clogged with fine dust and a few loose hairs. You tap it vigorously against the heel of your hand, then against the wooden post, the sharp sounds echoing briefly across the clearing. The bristles spring back into shape, clean and ready, and you set the stiff brush down on the felt beside the currycomb, aligning it carefully with the other tools. You pause for a moment, placing your hands on your lower back and stretching gently, your spine arching, your shoulders rolling back. The horse, sensing the pause, turns its head and looks at you with one dark liquid eye, and then it shifts its weight and settles again, its tail giving a single, slow flick. Now you pick up the soft brush, the last of the brushes, its bristles finer and paler than the stiff brush, a creamy white that feels like silk against your fingertips. The handle is lighter, the wood thinner and more delicate, and the bristles are so soft that they bend at the slightest pressure, folding over your skin like a gentle breath. This brush will remove the final traces of dust and polish the coat to a smooth, even sheen, and you take it in your right hand and step back to the horse's left side. The coat, already clean from the stiff brush, now waits for the finishing touch, and you place the soft brush against the neck and begin a series of long, gliding strokes that follow the same path you traced earlier. The sound of the soft brush is even quieter than the stiff brush, a faint silken rustle like a hand passing over fine cloth. The bristles barely disturb the surface of the coat, catching only the very finest particles of dust and the last few loose hairs, and they leave behind a smooth, polished surface that reflects the pale light of the approaching dawn. You work the brush in the same overlapping pattern, from neck to shoulder to foreleg, across the barrel, over the flank, and onto the hindquarters, each stroke a slow, gentle sweep that seems to soothe both you and the horse. The horse's breathing deepens even further, its eyelids drooping, and it lets out a long, soft sigh, the air rushing from its nostrils in a warm, moist cloud. You can feel the warmth of the horse's body through the brush, the steady heat radiating outward, and your own breathing slows to match the rhythm of the strokes, a quiet, meditative pace. You pause often to clean the soft brush, but instead of tapping it, you use your left hand to gently pull the dust from the bristles, your fingers combing through the fine hairs and letting the particles drift to the ground. The dust is so fine that it floats for a long time before settling, a pale, shimmering mist that catches the light and then fades. The left side of the horse, once finished, gleams with a soft, healthy luster, the coat lying perfectly flat, the muscles visible as subtle curves and shadows under the skin. You run your bare hand over the horse's shoulder, feeling the smooth, clean hair, the warmth beneath, and you nod slightly to yourself, a small private gesture of satisfaction. Then you move to the right side and repeat the process with the same slow, careful strokes, the soft brush gliding over the coat, lifting the last of the dust, polishing the hair to a dull, even shine. The right side takes just as long as the left, each stroke deliberate and unhurried, and when you finally finish, you step back and set the soft brush down on the felt, completing the row of tools. The horse stands clean and calm, its coat smooth from nose to tail, the dust of the night entirely removed. The sky above you has turned a pale, luminous grey, and a thin band of warm gold has appeared on the horizon, the first true sign that the sun is about to rise. The air feels lighter, the birds have begun their first tentative calls somewhere far off, and the steppe stretches away in every direction, vast and still and full of quiet promise. The hoof-pick rests on the felt square among the other tools, its shape a dark crescent against the grey wool. You reach down and take it in your right hand, the handle settling into the hollow of your palm with the familiarity of an old friend. The handle is wood, a piece of birch that has been shaped by a knife long ago, its surface worn smooth by the repeated pressure of your grip. It has taken on a deep, brown patina from the oils of your skin and the countless times you have held it, and there are small cracks near the iron socket where the wood has dried and shrunk over the years. The iron itself is curved at one end into a hook that tapers to a blunt point, and it is cold to the touch, the metal having absorbed the chill of the night air. You run your thumb along the edge of the hook, feeling its smooth, dull surface, and then you step closer to the horse's left side, positioning yourself just behind the foreleg. The horse knows what is coming. You can tell by the way it shifts its weight slightly, preparing to balance on 3 legs, and by the way its ears flick back toward you, tracking your movements. You place your left hand on the horse's shoulder, letting it slide slowly down the front of the foreleg, your palm following the contour of the muscle and bone. The coat is smooth and warm under your fingers from the brushing, and you can feel the hard, straight line of the cannon bone through the skin. Your hand moves down past the knee, along the flat expanse of the cannon, and reaches the fetlock joint, a rounded knob of bone that protrudes slightly at the back. You curl your fingers around the fetlock, your thumb resting on one side and your fingers on the other, and you give a gentle squeeze, a signal that you have given thousands of times before. At the same time, you make a soft clicking sound with your tongue, barely audible, just a small noise that means lift your foot. The horse responds without hesitation, transferring its weight onto the right foreleg and bending the left foreleg at the knee. The hoof lifts from the ground, and you catch it with your left hand, cradling the hard curved wall in your palm while your right hand, holding the pick, remains free. You step forward and brace the horse's lower leg against your left thigh, the pastern resting across the muscle just above your knee, the hoof turned upward so that the sole faces the sky. The position is secure and comfortable, and the horse leans slightly into you, trusting your support. The hoof is cool and damp from the night grass, and small clods of dark soil cling to the sole, mixed with bits of dried vegetation and the occasional tiny pebble. You bring the hoof pick to the sole, inserting the pointed tip into the cleft of the frog, the V-shaped groove that runs down the center of the hoof's underside. The frog is softer than the surrounding hoof wall, a rubbery, textured pad that cushions the horse's step, and the dirt packed into its cleft is dark and compacted. You work the pick carefully, prying loose the debris with a gentle, levering motion, the iron scraping against the horn with a dry, rasping sound. Small chunks of mud crumble away and fall to the ground, landing on the packed earth with soft, muffled thuds, and a fine dust rises from the hoof, carrying the earthy smell of soil and old grass. You scrape along one side of the cleft, then the other, removing the packed material layer by layer, the pick moving in short, controlled strokes. The frog itself is clean and healthy, a pale grayish color with a slightly spongy texture, and you avoid pressing too hard against it, knowing it is sensitive. You shift the pick to the side of the sole, working around the curved junction where the sole meets the hoof wall, the white line that forms a narrow, pale border. The dirt here is less compacted, more of a loose, sandy grit that has been pressed into the crevice by the horse's weight, and it comes away easily with the pick's tip. You trace the entire circumference of the hoof, first along the outer edge, then the inner, the pick making a continuous gentle rasp as it dislodges the accumulated debris. The sound is rhythmic and steady, a soft scrape, pause that blends with the bird calls beginning in the distance and the horse's deep, even breathing. When the sole is clean, you turn the pick sideways and use the flat edge to gently scrape the remaining dust from the surface of the frog, the motion light and careful. The hoof looks fresh and healthy now, the greyish horn of the sole smooth and slightly concave, the frog a darker, softer island in the center, the outer wall a dark, polished curve. You lower the hoof slowly, your left hand guiding it back to the ground, and the horse places it down with a soft, solid thump. You release the fetlock and straighten up, your left hand resting for a moment on the horse's shoulder, and the horse shifts its weight back onto all four legs, settling with a small sigh that puffs from its nostrils. You step back, giving the horse a moment to adjust, and you tap the hoof pick against the heel of your boot to knock loose the dirt clinging to its tip. The iron rings faintly with the impact, a brief metallic note that fades into the quiet. The left front hoof is done, and you walk slowly around to the horse's left hind leg, passing behind its tail, your hand brushing the coarse hairs of the tail as you go. The left hind leg is positioned slightly differently, the horse resting its weight on it rather than cocking it, but the process is the same. You place your left hand on the horse's hip, sliding it down the curve of the hindquarters, over the great, rounded muscle of the thigh, and down the back of the leg to the hock. The hock is a sharp, bony joint, and you feel its angular shape under your palm as you continue down the cannon bone to the fetlock. The horse is aware of you, its ear swiveling back, but it does not move. When your hand reaches the fetlock, you give the same gentle squeeze, the same soft clicking sound, and you lean slightly into the horse's flank, a signal to shift its weight. The horse obliges, lifting the hind leg and bending it at the hock, the hoof rising up toward its belly. You catch the hoof with your left hand, cradling the toe, and you step forward to rest the leg across your left thigh, the same way you did with the front leg, though the angle is slightly more forward because of the horse's hind limb conformation. This hoof is dirtier than the front one, as hind hoofs tend to be, having carried more of the horse's weight during grazing and walking. The sole is packed with a dense plug of mud that has dried slightly and cracked, and there are several small stones embedded in the frog's cleft. You set to work with the pick, the tip digging into the hardened mud, breaking it apart in small, crumbling pieces that shower down onto the ground. The scraping sound is louder here, the dry mud offering more resistance than the looser soil of the front hoof, and you work the pick in short, decisive strokes, prying out the stones one by one. Each stone makes a distinct, sharp click as it falls onto the packed earth, and you count them without meaning to. 1, 2, 3, 4 small grey pebbles that have been carried for perhaps miles across the steppe. You inspect each one briefly, noting their smooth, rounded surfaces before letting them drop. The frog on this hoof has a small, shallow depression where the stones were lodged, and you clean it out with extra care, the pick's tip tracing the contours of the V-shaped cleft. You scrape the sole, working from the heel toward the toe, following the natural arch of the hoof, the metal rasping against the horn in a continuous, steady rhythm. The dust rises, finer here, and you breathe it in, the dry, mineral scent of old earth. When the sole is clean, you examine the hoof wall, running your thumb along its edge to feel for any cracks or chips. But the horn is sound, only slightly worn from the daily travel. You use the edge of the pick to gently scrape a small tag of loose horn near the heel, a flake that peels away easily, and then you lower the hoof back to the ground. The horse places it down with a heavier thud than the front leg, and you release your grip, stepping back and rolling your shoulders to ease the slight tension of bending. You move to the right hind leg, walking around the front of the horse this time, your hand trailing across its chest as you pass, feeling the solid, warm muscle beneath the skin. The horse turns its head slightly to watch you with one calm eye, and you pause to meet its gaze, a brief moment of quiet connection, before you continue to its right side. The right hind leg is positioned similarly to the left, but the light from the eastern horizon now falls on this side, casting a pale, golden glow across the horse's flank and making the coat gleam where you brushed it earlier. You place your hand on the hip and slide it down, over the croup and the thigh, to the hock, down the cannon, to the fetlock. The squeeze, the click, the lean, and the horse lifts the hoof, settling it across your thigh with the same calm compliance. The dirt in this hoof is moist rather than dry, a dark sticky mud that clings to the pick and has to be scraped off against the side of your boot between passes. The frog is deeper here, with a narrow winding cleft that holds the mud in tight, stubborn pockets, and you work the pick patiently, digging out each pocket with small, careful movements. The sound is wetter, a soft, sucking scrape rather than a dry rasp, and the debris that falls to the ground lands with a splat rather than a crumble. You can smell the richer, more organic scent of this mud, a smell of damp roots and decomposing grass, the deep earth of the steppe that has been churned by hooves and soaked by dew. You clean the cleft first, then the collateral grooves on either side of the frog, then the sole, the pick moving in its methodical circuit around the hoof. The horse shifts its weight slightly, adjusting its balance, and you hold the leg steady with your left hand, your grip firm but gentle. When the hoof is clean, you notice a small dark bruise on the sole near the toe, a faint discoloration from stepping on a stone some days ago, but it is old and healing, nothing that needs attention, and you make a mental note to check it again another day. You lower the hoof, the horse setting it down with a soft thud, and you straighten up and clean the pick once more. Finally, you walk to the right front leg, the last one, the morning light now strong enough that you can see the individual hairs on the horse's coat and the fine dust motes floating in the air around you. You position yourself beside the shoulder, your left hand resting on the warm, solid muscle, and you slide it down the foreleg, the same path as the left front leg, but in reverse. The horse, anticipating the routine now, lifts its hoof even before you squeeze the fetlock, a small, eager motion that makes you smile inwardly, and you catch the hoof and brace it against your thigh. This hoof is the cleanest of the four, as the horse tends to rest this leg less and move it more, but there is still a thin layer of sandy soil packed along the white line, and a few strands of dry grass wedged into the cleft of the frog. You remove them with the pick, the grass coming away in a single dry bundle, and then you scrape the sole in long, smooth strokes, the pick gliding over the horn with a whisper of sound. The hoof wall on this foot has a small chip near the toe, an old imperfection that has been there for months and has not grown worse, and you run the pick lightly over it, feeling the rough edge before moving on. You clean the frog, the soft, pale tissue yielding slightly under the pick's pressure, and then you lower the hoof, the horse placing it down gently, its weight settling back onto all four legs with a faint, contented sigh. You stand up fully, your back straightening, and you hold the hoof-pick loosely in your hand, the iron now warm from your grip. You look at the horse, which stands clean and balanced, all four hooves free of stones and packed earth, and then you walk back to the felt square and set the pick down among the brushes, its curved shape dark against the wool. You take a step back and place your hand on the horse's shoulder once more, feeling the steady, slow beat of its heart through the coat, the warmth of its body in the cool morning air. The sky above is now a pale, washed blue, and the rim of the sun has just begun to break the horizon, a thin, blazing arc of gold that spills light across the endless grass. The birds are singing more loudly now, and the herd in the distance has begun to stir, the horses lifting their heads and nickering softly to one another. You stand quietly beside your horse, the hoof-picking done, the tools clean, the day slowly opening around you like a great calm eye. The grooming tools lie in their neat row on the felt square, and the horse stands clean and quiet beside the post, its coat smooth, its hooves free of stones. The sun has now lifted fully above the horizon, a warm, golden disk that sends long rays of light slanting across the steppe, and the sky has turned from deep grey to a pale, washed blue. The air feels different, still cool, but carrying the promise of warmth, and the grass, wet with dew just a short while ago, is beginning to dry in patches where the light touches it. You take a long, slow breath, feeling the morning fill your lungs, and then you turn away from the horse and walk the few steps back to the wooden post where the leather bag hangs. The bag's flap is still closed, its toggle secure, but you are not reaching for the brushes now. Tucked behind the post, leaning against it on the side away from the horse, is a larger bundle wrapped in a piece of old oiled cloth. You bend down and lift the bundle with both hands, the cloth stiff and slightly greasy under your fingers, and you carry it back to the horse, setting it down on the ground near the felt square. The cloth falls open as you set it down, revealing the saddle pad, the saddle itself, and the long, wool girth strap coiled neatly on top. The saddle pad is the first thing you pick up. You take it in both hands, your fingers sinking into its thickness, and you straighten up, holding it at waist height. The pad is a rectangle of thick, felted wool, about the length of your arm and nearly as wide, folded once along its length so that it forms two layers. The wool is a dark, mottled grey, the natural colour of the sheep from which it came, with flecks of brown and black scattered through the fibres. The pad is old, older than the saddle perhaps, and it has been used for so many seasons that it is moulded to the shape of the horse's back, the felt compressed into a gentle curve that mirrors the contour of the spine and withers. You run your palm over the surface, feeling the dense, matted texture of the felt, the way the individual fibers have been pressed and tangled together until they form a single cohesive sheet. The surface is not smooth. It is slightly fuzzy, with tiny ends of wool sticking up here and there, and it has a springy, resilient feel when you press down on it, like a firm cushion. You turn the pad over in your hands, examining both sides. The top side, the side that will face upward against the saddle, is slightly darker and more worn, with a few thin spots where the felt has been rubbed almost smooth by the constant friction of the wooden saddle tree. The underside, the side that will rest against the horse's coat, is a little softer and fuzzier, the fibers less compressed, and it bears the faint dark stains of old sweat, the residue of countless days of riding. The sweat stains are irregular, darker patches that trace the shape of the horse's back, wider at the shoulders and tapering toward the loins, and they have a faint, salty smell that mingles with the deeper, animal scent of the wool. There is also the smell of dust, the dry, earthy odor of the steppe that has settled into the fibers over time, and beneath that, the faint, oily smell of the lanolin that remains in the wool from the sheep. You hold the pad up to your face and breathe in, the sense familiar and comforting, a mixture of horse and sheep and earth and hard work. You lower the pad and turn toward the horse, which is standing quietly, its head turned slightly to watch you with one calm eye. The horse knows this object well. It has felt its weight and warmth on its back, more times than either of you could count. You step up to the horse's left side, positioning yourself just behind the shoulder, and you unfold the pad, opening it to its full double-layer thickness. The pad makes a soft rustling sound as it unfolds, the fibers rubbing against each other with a dry, whispery noise. You reach up and place the leading edge of the pad against the horse's withers, the highest point of the back where the neck meets the body, the bony ridge that you can feel under the skin. The pad settles against the coat with a gentle, muffled thump, the wool instantly beginning to warm where it touches the horse's heat. You hold the pad in place with your left hand, your fingers pressing lightly on the top edge, and with your right hand, you smooth the pad backward along the spine, sliding it into position. The movement is slow and deliberate, the pad gliding over the smooth, brushed coat with very little resistance, and you feel the curve of the horse's back under the felt as it moves into place, the slight dip behind the withers, the flat expanse of the ribcage, the gentle rise toward the croup. You stop when the back edge of the pad rests just before the loins, the spot where the saddle will not sit, and you check the alignment by running your hand along the top edge of the pad, feeling that it is centered and straight along the spine. Now you smooth the pad with the flat of your hand, pressing down firmly but gently, working from the center outward. You start at the withers, placing your palm flat on the pad and sliding it down the side of the horse's shoulder, the felt compressing slightly under your pressure, the wool conforming to the shape of the muscle. You repeat this motion on the other side, walking around the front of the horse to reach the right side, the horse's head following you with a slow, lazy turn. The pad on the right side lies just as smoothly, and you smooth it down with the same careful pressure, your hand tracing the contour of the shoulder and the ribs. You walk back to the left side and check the pad once more, looking for any wrinkles or folds in the felt. There is a small crease near the back edge, a line where the pad had been folded for storage, and you smooth it out with your fingertips, rubbing the wool gently until the crease disappears and the pad lies perfectly flat. The pad is now in its proper place, a thick grey rectangle centered on the horse's back, its edges hanging down evenly on both sides, its surface ready to receive the saddle. You turn back to the cloth bundle on the ground and lift out the saddle. It is heavier than the pad, a solid weight that requires both hands to manage, and you carry it carefully, holding it by the pommel at the front and the cantle of the back. The saddle is a simple design, a wooden frame covered in worn dark leather with no horn or elaborate tooling, just the essential shapes needed for riding. The wood of the tree is visible in places where the leather has worn thin, a pale honey-colored wood that has been shaped and smoothed by a skilled hand long ago. The seat is a shallow curve, slightly dished to hold a rider securely, and the leather covering the seat is cracked and supple, darkened by use and by the oils of many rides. The pommel rises in a gentle arch at the front, and the cantle is a low, curved rise at the back, both covered in the same dark leather that has been stitched with thick, waxed thread in neat, even lines. The stirrup leathers hang down from either side, long straps of leather with iron stirrups at their ends, and they swing gently as you carry the saddle, the metal clinking softly against the wood. You pause for a moment, holding the saddle at arm's length, and you look at it, this object that has been with you for so long. The leather has a particular smell, a rich, earthy scent of tanned hide and old sweat, and the faint, sweet odor of the neatsfoot oil you rub into it occasionally to keep it supple. The stirrup leathers are darker than the rest, almost black, and they are smooth and flexible from constant handling. The girth billets, the 3 short straps that hang down from the right side of the saddle tree, are made of the same dark leather and have rows of holes punched into them for the girth buckle. Everything about the saddle speaks of age and use and care, and it fits your body as well as it fits the horse's back, the seat having been shaped by your own weight over countless hours. You step up to the horse's left side, standing just behind the shoulder, and you lift the saddle up and over the horse's back, your arms rising above your head for a moment before you lower the saddle gently onto the pad. The saddle comes to rest with a soft, solid sound, the wooden tree settling onto the felt, the weight pressing the pad down against the horse's coat. You keep your hands on the saddle, one on the pommel and one on the cantle, and you adjust its position, sliding it slightly backward until the front of the saddle, the part called the gullet, clears the horse's withers by a comfortable margin. You can fit your hand between the pommel and the withers, your fingers sliding easily into the space, and you feel the warm air trapped there, the heat from the horse's body already beginning to build. The saddle sits level on the horse's back, the seat neither tilted forward nor backward, and you check this by sighting along the seat from the pommel to the cantle, your eye tracing the gentle curve. You walk around to the right side to check the fit from that angle. The pad is visible beneath the saddle, a thin grey line extending evenly all around the edges, and you adjust it by pinching the front edge between your thumb and forefinger and pulling it up slightly, just a finger's width, so that it sits perfectly centered. The saddle has not shifted during this small adjustment, and you pat the seat lightly with your palm, a small habitual gesture that settles everything into place. The right side looks as good as the left, the pad smooth and unwrinkled, the saddle level, the billets hanging down freely against the horse's side. You walk back to the left side and stand there for a moment, your hand resting on the pommel, feeling the solid, steady presence of the saddle under your palm. Now you reach down to the cloth bundle one last time and pick up the girth strap, the long wide band of woven wool that will hold the saddle in place. The girth is made of thick, tightly woven yarn, the same greyish-brown wool as the pad, and it is about the width of your hand and long enough to wrap around the horse's belly with plenty to spare. One end of the girth has a pair of iron buckles, simple square frames with a tongue in the center, and the buckles are cool and smooth to the touch, their iron darkened with age and free of rust. The other end of the girth is folded and stitched to form a reinforced tab with 3 holes on each side, corresponding to the billets on the saddle. You run the girth through your hands, feeling the heavy, dense weave of the wool, the slight scratchiness of the fibers, the way the strap has a natural give when you pull on it, a small amount of stretch that will tighten gently over the horse's belly. The girth also has the smell of wool and horse and dust, a smell you have known since you were a child. You kneel down on one knee beside the horse's left foreleg, the grass cool and slightly damp against your trousers, and you reach under the horse's belly with the end of the girth that has the holes. The horse stands perfectly still, its breathing unchanged, its ears relaxed, and you pass the girth under its body, your arm extended, your fingers feeling for the end as it emerges on the other side. The horse's belly is warm, the coat smooth and soft, and the girth slides easily through the space between the horse's body and the ground. You catch the end with your right hand on the other side and pull it through until the buckled end of the girth hangs down on the left side of the horse, the buckles dangling just below the saddle flap. Then you walk around to the right side, the girth now passing under the horse's belly, and you take the end with the holes and thread it through the first billet strap, the one at the front pushing the billet through the top hole from the inside out, so that the leather tab protrudes. You repeat this with the second and third billets, each one going through its corresponding hole, and you pull the girth, snug, but not tight, just enough to take up the slack so that the saddle will not slide. You return to the left side, where the buckles hang waiting, and you kneel down again. The first billet on this side, the front one, is attached to the saddle tree by a strong leather strap that hangs down, and you take the buckle in your left hand and guide the billet through it, pushing the leather tongue through the first hole you come to, a hole that has been stretched and darkened by use. The tongue slips through with a small metallic click, and you release the buckle, letting it hang. You move to the second billet, the middle one, and you do the same, threading the billet through the buckle, pushing the tongue through a hole that matches the tension of the first. The girth is now attached on both sides, but it is still loose, hanging down a few inches below the horse's belly, and the saddle would slip if you were to mount it now. The tightening will come next, a slow, patient process that you will do in small increments, giving the horse time to adjust, letting the horse know that nothing sudden or uncomfortable is about to happen. You take the end of the first billet strap in your fingers, the leather smooth and cool, and you pull it downward with a slow, steady pressure. The girth tightens slightly, the wool strap pulling upward against the horse's belly, and the buckle tongue clicks as it moves to the next hole. You pause, letting the horse feel the new pressure, and the horse shifts its weight slightly, a small adjustment, but it does not pin its ears or swish its tail. You wait for a few breaths, your hand still holding the billet, and then you pull again, moving the buckle to the next hole. The girth is now snug enough that it will not slide, but it is not yet tight, and you leave the first billet and move to the second, pulling it down with the same slow, deliberate motion until the tension matches. You pause again, watching the horse, watching the gentle rise and fall of its ribs, the calm, unblinking eye that regards you with quiet trust. Then you move to the third billet, the back one, and you tighten it in the same way, pulling it down to match the other two. The girth now rests firmly against the horse's belly, the wool strap pressed flat against the coat, and you can feel the warmth of the horse's body through the wool when you place your palm against it. You stand up, your knees making a small popping sound, and you walk around the horse, checking each billet on the right side to make sure the holes are evenly matched and the girth is straight. Everything is as it should be. You return to the left side, and now comes the final tightening, the small incremental pulls that will bring the girth to its proper tension. You take the front billet again and pull it one more hole, a slow, steady pull that requires a little more force now because the girth is already snug. The tongue clicks into place, and you wait, your hand resting on the saddle, feeling the horse's reaction through the leather and wood. The horse exhales, a long, slow breath that you have learned to wait for, because a horse will often hold its breath when the girth is tightened, and if you tighten too much while the breath is held, the girth will be loose when the horse relaxes. So you wait until the horse inhales again and then exhales, and on that exhale you pull the second billet one more hole, the leather sliding smoothly, the buckle tongue settling into its new home. You pause again, waiting through another breath cycle, and then you pull the third billet one more hole. The girth is now tight enough to hold the saddle securely without pinching or causing discomfort, and you can slide 2 fingers easily between the girth and the horse's belly, a test you perform automatically, your fingers slipping under the wool strap and feeling the warm, firm pressure. You give the saddle a small tug with your hand, pulling on the pommel to see if it shifts, but it stays solid, the pad and the girth working together to hold everything in place. The horse stands quietly, its head still low, its breathing deep and even, and you place your hand on its neck for a moment, feeling the warmth and the steady pulse under the skin. The saddle pad and the saddle and the girth are all in place, the layers of felt and leather and wool forming a secure, comfortable seat that will carry you across the steppe. The morning light is now full and golden, and the last of the stars have faded from the sky, leaving only the pale blue dome above. You take a step back and look at the horse, fully tacked except for the bridle, and you feel the quiet satisfaction of a task done slowly and well, each step completed with patience and care. The next step, the bridle waits on the post, its leather and bit hanging ready, but for now you simply stand there, your hand on the warm saddle, the horse breathing beside you, the world wide and calm and full of light. The bridle hangs from the iron ring on the wooden post, its leather dark and supple in the growing morning light. You have left it there until now, waiting through the grooming and the saddling, because the bridle is always the last thing, the final piece of the preparation. The horse stands quietly beside the post, its saddle secure on its back, its girth snug but comfortable, its coat clean and smooth. Its halter, the simple head collar of flat leather straps that it has worn through the night, is still in place, the lead rope coiled loosely around the post. The time has come to exchange the halter for the bridle, a small ritual that requires patience and calm and a quiet hand. You step over to the post and lift the bridle from its hook, holding it by the crown piece, the topmost strap that will pass behind the horse's ears. The leather is cool and smooth, and it has a rich, dark brown color that has been polished by years of handling. The bridle is simple in its design, a series of straps connected by buckles and keepers, each one serving a specific purpose and no more. The crown piece is the widest strap, and from it hang the cheek pieces on either side, long narrow strips of leather that end in small buckles attached to the bit rings. The brow band, a shorter strap that will sit across the horse's forehead, is looped through the crown piece, and the noseband, a thinner strap, hangs below. The bit itself swings gently from the cheek pieces, its metal cool and grey in the morning air, the curved mouthpiece connecting two round rings on either side. The curb strap, a short length of flat leather, dangles from one of the bit rings, waiting to be fastened later. You carry the bridle back to the horse, draping it over your left forearm so that the straps hang down in an organized tangle, the buckles jingling faintly with each step. The horse turns its head toward you, its ears pricked forward with mild curiosity, and it regards the bridle with a calm, familiar eye. The horse has worn this bridle more times than either of you could count, and it knows the feel of the bit, the gentle pressure of the leather, the way the whole arrangement settles into place. There is no fear in its eye, no tension in its posture, just a quiet acceptance of the routine. You stop beside the horse's left side, just in front of its shoulder, and you reach up with your right hand to the halter. Your fingers find the buckle of the crown piece, the flat brass square with its single tongue, and you work it loose with a gentle, practiced motion, the leather slipping free of the hole. The halter loosens around the horse's head, and you slide it forward carefully, the noseband slipping over the muzzle, the cheek pieces falling away from the sides of the face. The horse blinks once, its long eyelashes sweeping down and up, and it stands perfectly still as you remove the halter entirely. You hang the halter over the wooden post, looping the lead rope around it so that it will not fall to the ground, and then you turn back to the horse, your left arm still holding the bridle. For a moment, the horse's head is bare, the short fine hairs on its face catching the golden light, and you reach up with your right hand and place your palm on the bridge of its nose, just below the forehead. The bone is hard and flat under your hand, and the horse leans slightly into the touch, its breath warm against your wrist. Now you shift the bridle from your left arm to your hands, holding it ready. You take the crown piece in your right hand, the cheek pieces hanging down, the bit swinging gently, and you bring the bridle up toward the horse's head. The horse lowers its nose slightly, a small cooperative gesture, and you pause with the bridle held just in front of its face. The bit is still cold from the night air, and you know that a cold bit can be uncomfortable for the horse, so you take a moment to warm it. You bring the bit into your left palm, the curved metal mouthpiece resting against your skin, and you close your fingers around it. The iron is smooth and chill at first, but the heat of your hand gradually seeps into it, the metal warming slowly, the coldness fading. You hold it there for a long moment, feeling the weight of the bit, the smooth curve of the mouthpiece, the slight play of the rings. The horse watches you with one dark eye, patient and still. And when the bit feels warm enough against your palm, you are ready. You bring the bridle up toward the horse's mouth, your left hand holding the bit, your right hand holding the crown piece high above the horse's head. The horse does not open its mouth yet. It waits for the signal, the small familiar cue that means, take the bit. You place your left thumb gently at the corner of the horse's lips, pressing into the soft, hairless skin where the upper and lower lips meet. This is the place where there are no teeth, a gap in the jaw that is made for the bit to rest, and your thumb presses into it with a steady, gentle pressure. The horse responds by opening its mouth slightly, the lips parting, the teeth separating, and you slide the bit in, guiding the mouthpiece into the gap with your thumb still in place. The metal passes over your thumb, smooth and warm, and the horse accepts it without resistance, its tongue moving under the bit, its jaw relaxing. The bit settles into its proper place, the mouthpiece resting on the bars of the jaw, the rings hanging down on either side of the mouth, and you withdraw your thumb carefully, the horse's lips closing around the bit with a soft, wet sound. Now you lift the crown piece up over the horse's head, your right hand reaching high, your arm extending above the horse's ears. The leather slides through your fingers, the cheek pieces straightening out as the crown piece rises, and you bring it forward and down, positioning it behind the ears. The horse's ears are upright and relaxed, and you work carefully, taking the left ear first. You fold the ear gently forward with your fingertips, the soft, fuzzy skin warm against your hand, and you pass the crown piece over it, the leather sliding into the groove behind the ear where it will rest. The horse flicks its ear once, a small automatic movement, and then holds still as you do the same with the right ear, folding it forward, passing the leather behind it, settling the crown piece into place. The bridle now hangs from the horse's head, the crown piece curved around the pole, the cheek pieces running down on either side, the bit resting quietly in the mouth. The forelock, the long tuft of hair that grows between the horse's ears and falls forward over the forehead, has been caught under the crown piece. You reach up with your fingers and gently pull the forelock free, lifting the hair strand by strand, smoothing it out so that it lies flat over the brow band. The hair is coarse and slightly wavy, and it slides through your fingers with a dry, silky feel. The brow band now sits just below the forelock, a dark strap of leather that curves across the forehead, and you check its fit by running your finger underneath it, making sure it is not too tight and not too loose. The leather rests smoothly against the skin, and the horse blinks again, its eyes calm and half-lidded. Now you attend to the throat latch. The thin strap that hangs down from the right side of the crown piece passes under the horse's throat and buckles on the left side. You take the end of the throat latch in your fingers, the leather narrow and smooth, and you pass it under the horse's jaw, reaching behind the curved line of the cheek to catch it on the other side. The horse lifts its head slightly to give you room, and you bring the strap around to the left side, threading it through the small buckle that hangs from the crown piece near the horse's left ear. The buckle is a simple brass square, and you push the tongue through the hole in the strap, choosing the middle hole first, the one that has been used most often. You test the tightness by sliding 2 fingers between the strap and the horse's throat, feeling the warm soft skin, the slight give of the leather. The fit is correct. The strap is loose enough that it does not constrict the horse's breathing, but tight enough that the bridle will not slit forward if the horse lowers its head. You tuck the excess length of the strap through the keeper, a small leather loop that holds it flat against the cheek piece, and the throat latch is done. The noseband is next, a thin strap that passes around the horse's muzzle just above the nostrils. You take the end of the noseband in your left hand, the leather soft and pliable, and you pass it over the bridge of the nose, threading it through the small buckle on the other side. The horse's breath is warm and steady against your fingers as you work near its nostrils, the air puffing out in slow, regular clouds. You pull the noseband snug, then loosen it by one hole so that it rests comfortably against the nose without pinching, and you fasten the buckle, the brass tongue sliding into place with a small, metallic click. The keeper holds the excess strap flat, and the noseband sits neatly across the muzzle, a straight, dark line against the grey coat. Now you turn your attention to the bit, checking its position and the fit of the cheek pieces. You step around to the front of the horse, facing it directly, and you look at the bridle from the front. The cheek pieces are even on both sides, the buckles at the bit rings matching, and the bit itself sits level in the horse's mouth, the mouthpiece horizontal. You reach up and adjust the left cheek piece slightly, moving the buckle up one hole to match the right side, a tiny correction that makes the whole bridle symmetrical. The horse mouths the bit gently, its jaw working the metal with a soft, wet sound, the rings clinking faintly against its teeth. This mouthing is a sign of acceptance, a quiet, rhythmic chewing that tells you the horse is comfortable and relaxed. You watch the horse's lips, the way they close around the bit, the small movements of the tongue, and you see that the bit is resting correctly on the bars of the mouth, not too high to cause wrinkling at the corners of the lips, not too low to bang against the teeth. The curb strap is the last piece, the short length of leather that connects the 2-bit rings under the horse's chin. It hangs loose on the right side, and you take its end and pass it under the jaw, your fingers finding the small hook on the left bit ring. The curb strap has a series of holes punched into it, and you choose the one that allows the strap to hang with a slight curve, not tight, just resting against the chin groove. You hook it into place, the leather settling into the soft depression behind the horse's chin, and you check the tension by pulling gently on the reins, which are not yet attached, testing the leverage of the bit. The curb strap engages smoothly and you release it, satisfied with the fit. The reins, a single long strap of leather that connects to both bit rings, are still hanging from the post. You walk over and take them down, the leather cool and flexible in your hands, the same dark brown as the rest of the bridle. The reins are about the length of your outstretched arms, and they have been stitched along their edges with waxed thread, the stitches small and even. You carry them back to the horse and attach them to the bit rings, pushing the small leather tabs through the rings and fastening the buckles. The reins hang down from the bit in a long loose curve that nearly touches the ground, and you gather them up in your left hand, coiling the excess in a neat loop that you hold against the horse's neck. The bridle is now fully in place. You step back and look at the horse, its head framed by the dark leather straps, the bit glinting faintly in the morning light, the reins coiled neatly against its neck. The horse stands quietly, its ears relaxed, its eyes calm, its jaw still working the bit with that slow, rhythmic motion. The transformation from the bare, unadorned animal of the night to the fully tacked mount of the morning is complete. You walk around the horse one time, checking each strap and buckle from every angle, your hand touching the crown piece, the brow band, the nose band, the throat latch, the cheek pieces, the curb strap, the reins. Everything is secure and comfortable and correctly adjusted. The horse turns its head to follow you as you complete your circuit, and when you come back to its left side, you place your hand on its forehead once more, your palm resting against the warm, smooth skin just above the brow band. The horse leans its head into your touch, the bit clinking softly, and you stand there for a long moment, the two of you breathing together in the quiet morning, the bridle and the saddle and the pad, all in their places, the day ready to begin whenever you choose to mount. The light is full and golden now, the sun well above the horizon, and the steppe stretches out before you, endless and calm and full of the quiet promise of the hours ahead. Everything is ready. The saddle sits level on the horse's back, the girth snug against its belly, the bridle fitted comfortably over its head with the bit resting quietly in its mouth. The reins are coiled in your left hand, the leather warm from your grip, and you stand on the left side of the horse, your shoulder nearly touching its shoulder, your boots planted on the packed earth of the grooming spot. The morning light has grown fully around you, the sun now a pale gold disk suspended above the eastern plain, its rays stretching long and low across the grass. The sky has lost the last traces of dawn color and settled into a vast, even blue that deepens overhead and fades to a hazy white near the horizon. The steppe is quiet, quieter now than it was in the deep night, because even the nocturnal insects have ceased their calls and the birds have finished their first chorus, leaving a wide, open silence that feels as large as the sky itself. You do not move to mount. There is no hurry, no pressing need to be anywhere else. The preparation is complete, but the day has not yet called you to action, and so you simply stand beside your horse, one hand resting lightly on the pommel of the saddle, feeling the worn leather under your palm and the solid wood beneath. The horse stands equally still, its weight distributed evenly on all four legs, its head relaxed and slightly lowered, its ears flopped outward in a posture of deep calm. Every few moments, the horse shifts its jaw, mouthing the bit with a soft, wet sound, and the metal rings click gently against its teeth, a small, familiar noise that punctuates the silence without breaking it. The horse's tail swishes once, a slow, lazy sweep that stirs the air and then hangs still again, the long hairs brushing against its hocks. You feel the horse's warmth through the air between you, a steady, radiant heat that seems to wrap around your own body and merge with the warmth of the sun on your coat. Your breathing has slowed to match the horse's rhythm, deep and even, and you are aware of your own heartbeat as a soft, distant pulse that beats on without your attention. Your thoughts, which had been focused on the tasks of grooming and tacking, have now loosened and spread outward, drifting across the open plain like the shadows of clouds that are not there. You think about the grass, the way it grows and dies and grows again, the way it bends under the wind and then straightens, the way it feeds the horses and the horses feed you. You think about the seasons, the long frozen winters and the brief green summers, the cycles of migration that have shaped your life and the lives of your ancestors. You think about the land itself, the endless rolling expanse that stretches in every direction, a land so wide that a person could ride for days and still see only grass and sky. These thoughts do not form as words, but as images and feelings, a slow, quiet stream of awareness that flows through your mind without direction or purpose, and you let it flow, not holding on to any single thought, just watching them pass like the slow drift of the stars that have now vanished from the sky. The horse sighs, a long, deep exhalation that comes from the very bottom of its lungs, and the sound of it brings your attention back to the present. You feel the horse's rib cage expand and contract under the girth, and you remember that a horse will often let out its breath when it relaxes fully, and that this can loosen the girth ever so slightly. You step closer to the horse, your boots making no sound on the packed earth, and you reach down to the first billet strap that hangs from the saddle. The leather is warm now, warmed by the sun and by the horse's body heat, and you take the end of it in your fingers, feeling the familiar texture, the slight give of the stretched holes. You pull downward with a slow, steady pressure, just enough to move the buckled tongue to the next hole, and the girth tightens by a single increment. The horse does not react. It has felt this small adjustment many times before, and it continues to stand quietly, its breathing unchanged. You move to the second billet and do the same, pulling it down one hole, the leather sliding smoothly, the tongue clicking into place with a tiny metallic sound. You pause, your hand resting on the warm flank of the horse, and you feel the horse inhale and then exhale, the ribcage falling away from your palm. On that exhale, you pull the third billet one hole tighter, and then you straighten up, the girth now perfectly adjusted, the saddle as secure as it can be. You run your hand along the edge of the saddle pad, where the grey felt peeks out from beneath the leather, and you find a small fold near the front that you had not noticed before. You pinch the felt between your thumb and forefinger and pull it gently upward, smoothing the fold away, and then you tuck the edge of the pad neatly under the pommel. The small act satisfies something in you, a desire for order and completeness, and you let your hand drop back to your side. You notice that one of the stirrup leathers has twisted slightly where it hangs. The flat strap turns so that the inner side faces outward, and you reach down and untwist it with a simple rotation of your wrist, letting it hang straight again. The iron stirrup at its end swings gently with the motion, then settles, the metal dull and dark against the horse's side. Now you check the bridle once more, walking around to the front of the horse and looking at its face. The brow band sits straight across the forehead, the noseband is level, the cheek pieces are even on both sides. The bit is still warm from the horse's mouth, and a small amount of saliva has gathered at the corner of the lips, a sign that the horse is comfortable and accepting of the metal. You reach up and run your thumb along the curb strap, feeling the soft leather against the horse's chin groove, and you find that it is still properly adjusted, hanging with just the right amount of slack. The throat latch is secure, your two fingers still fitting easily underneath it, and the crown piece rests smoothly behind the ears, the forelock brushed forward over the browband. Everything is as it should be, and you let your hand rest for a moment on the horse's cheek, feeling the flat, hard bone and the soft, short hair, the warmth of the skin under your palm. The horse turns its head slightly toward you, its dark eye meeting yours with a calm, patient gaze, and then it turns back to face forward, its ears flicking once. You walk back to the left side of the horse and stand once more beside its shoulder. The sun has climbed a little higher now, and its light has changed from pale gold to a clearer, brighter yellow, the shadows shortening on the grass. The dew has dried completely, and the steppe has taken on its daytime colors, the pale green of the young grass, the darker olive of the older growth, the brown and grey patches of bare earth. A few small clouds have appeared in the sky, thin wispy streaks of white that drift slowly from west to east, their shadows racing across the plain far away, dark patches that slide over the grass and then vanish. You watch the clouds for a while, your eyes following their slow progress, and you feel the wind on your face, a light, steady breeze that has picked up with the rising sun, carrying the scent of dry grass and distant flowers. The herd, which had been grazing quietly at the picket line, has begun to stir more actively now. You can hear the horses moving, the soft thud of their hooves on the ground, the occasional nicker or whinny that carries across the grass. One horse, a young gelding with a pale coat, breaks into a brief, slow trot, its mane and tail streaming behind it, and then it stops and lowers its head to graze again, as if the burst of energy was nothing more than a passing thought. The other horses pay it no mind, and the herd resumes its calm collective rhythm. Your own horse lifts its head at the sound of the other horses moving and looks toward them, its ears pricked forward, its nostrils flaring slightly to catch their scent. You place your hand on its neck and feel the muscles tense, and then relax as the horse decides that everything is normal and nothing is worth concern. The horse lowers its head again, its ears returning to their relaxed, sideways angle. You stand there for a long time, perhaps longer than you have ever stood in one place without moving, and the stillness of the moment settles into your bones. You feel the ground under your feet, the solid, unyielding earth that supports you, and you feel the air around you, the coolness that still lingers at the edges of the warmth. You feel the horse beside you, a great living presence that is both separate from you and connected to you, and you feel the saddle under your hand, the leather that you have cared for, the wood that has carried you across countless miles. All of these sensations blend into a single quiet awareness of being exactly where you are, doing exactly what you are doing, with no need for anything else. The future, the past, the worries and the plans, all of them have receded to a distant horizon, and there is only this moment, this patch of grass, this horse, this light. A bird calls from somewhere nearby, a single clear note that rises and falls, and you turn your head to look for it. You see it perched on a low shrub about 50 paces away, a small brown bird with a speckled breast, its beak open as it sings. The song is simple, a short phrase repeated several times, and it fills the silence without disturbing it, a natural part of the morning's slow unfolding. The bird sings for a while longer, then flies away, its wings making a soft whirring sound, and the silence returns, deeper now because of the contrast. You tighten the girth one final time, just a half-hole adjustment, because the horse has relaxed so completely that the strap has settled further. This is the last small task, the final touch, and when it is done, you gather the reins more securely in your left hand and place your right hand on the pommel, preparing to mount. But you do not mount yet. You pause, one foot still on the ground, your body balanced between stillness and motion, and you look out at the steppe one more time. The great, open world that is your home. The sun is warm on your back, the breeze is cool on your face, and the horse waits beneath you with infinite patience. You feel a quiet sense of readiness, not an urgent readiness, but a calm, complete preparedness that has grown slowly through every small act of the morning, and you know that when you finally swing your leg over the saddle and settle into the seat, you will be exactly where you are meant to be. The day stretches ahead of you, long and open and full of quiet possibility, and you stand there on the edge of it, your hand on the pommel, your horse warm and steady beside you, the world vast and still and perfectly at peace.